What's up, guys? Welcome to the Loaded Dice podcast. This is our first episode here, or actually episode 0 here with
Our
Sqweeby.
pilot
If you guys don't
episode.
know, yeah, pilot episode, exactly. If you guys don't know Sqweeby, he's a top Masters player, also top 32 qualifier. Yes, sir. You
Light
know,
work? Light work?
known to lose some timeouts. Kind of synonymous with
Known
losing
thrower.
timeouts. Yeah, exactly. And if you guys don't know me, my tag is Faint, and hit rank 1 a couple times on the ladder board, but that's kind of really all I got doing. I've made some cool decks too, but with
You
that being
don't you don't
said,
play you don't play tournaments much, right? Outside of seasonal so far.
I've never. Well, I
Yeah.
played one. I played one outside of seasonal,
Yeah.
and I had barely started playing the game. I was pretty trash at the time.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I wanted to kind of delve into a little bit of like how we started off with the game. So with that being said, kind of explains what I'm talking about. This is kind of the first card game I've played seriously at all. Um, some very casual Hearthstone in high school. So delving into this was a completely like new thing for me, and I kind of just like try to learn as quick as possible. But along the ways, yeah, there are some low points for sure. But yeah, I started off in competitive Smash, and then pretty much from there, I saw one of the Smash players I know playing this game, and I was like, oh, looks cool. I got nothing much going on. So I jumped into it, and, it just off the rails from there. Actually, funny story is so, because, streaming at the time, whatever. So I'm like, I'm going to stream when I play. So I'm streaming and I'm going through the tutorials. Like, I haven't even finished the tutorials yet for the game. And it's like, my stream very, very small at the time, not used to having many viewers, and within the first 5 minutes of me streaming the tutorials, I got rated by Ludin, if you know Ludin Kuma.
Yeah, I've
And
also caught one. Yeah.
he was at the time, I don't know if you know, Ludin was the top dog at the time for like Runeterra. So it was like, oh shit, I got 1,000 people watching me
That's crazy.
play the tutorial of the game. Like, I was like, fuck,
That's
I
so
gotta
like
learn this game
wholesome
quick.
and fun for them too, right? Like they're watching a top player play highest level of competitive ladder, and then it's like, what? How do you set a
Yeah.
blocker? What's an elusive unit? Like that's kind
Yeah,
of a
literally.
cool dynamic
Very
for them
literally.
to see
They
the,
had
the
me
switch up.
yeah, they had me build a spiders deck. They're like, just play spiders, you'll be fine. I was
Yep.
like, all right. But then also from that point, after I got that raid, and I don't, I'm pretty good at games generally, so I don't really like the feeling of like I'm streaming and I don't know what the fuck is going on. So after that, I didn't stream for a week and just 24 hours just was playing Runeterra. And I went from, because the season was resetting at that point, so in like that like 2 day span, I went from Iron to Diamond 1, and then the season reset and I missed it. And I was like, fuck. Um
That's crazy.
and then from there I've just, been trying to learn shit and
Hit rank
do what
one
I
a couple
can.
times, easy, no
Yeah, man, you
problem.
know how it is.
I
Yeah.
haven't hit rank one yet, so you got that on me for sure.
That's shocking to me.
I
I think
don't
it's just
play enough
extremerisms.
ladder to
Yeah.
be honest. Like people make fun of my mastery points on my champs for how low they are.
You got to time it right, because I've never hit super high ladder
LP, yeah,
point.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
LP. It's just like when it's early, it doesn't take that many games. So.
Right, yeah. You were like what, second in the season or something crazy?
Yeah, this season when I got it, I was second. So literally, I needed 50 LP
Yeah.
to get there. And then the other time I got it, it was like 400 LP because it's still kind of early. So,
Okay.
It's got to be strategic.
Yeah,
So,
I had a somewhat similar entrance. I played Hearthstone for many
yeah.
years actually though. Like I played it
Okay.
for like almost since it came out and never really competitively. I played it with a friend, like co-op, and we played Arena together a lot. Like I was a big fan of Crip, who's like a big
Yeah.
streamer for Arena. He was like setting a lot of records for average wins and stuff. So I played that
Yeah.
mode to get a near a full collection for mostly free. And I was like totally
Nice.
a draft mode player. I loved it. Like I think I got close to legend once, but like I really was all about arena. I had a pretty
Yeah.
like respectable average wins when I was doing it, like, maybe 6, a little above 6. And then I started playing Runeterra in beta and was like still in expeditions like a draft mode player, and that's how I got my full collection. But it was way shorter than it was in Hearthstone. And then
Absolutely.
that's when I started trying out ladder. But I was like a casual ladder player for many months. Like probably was just like diamond a couple times, and then it might have been like season of plunder or somewhere around there where I played pirates, and then I just like hit masters like without trying, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
I've never been this good at a game before. And
Aggro Pirates, right?
yeah, aggro pirates. Yep.
Yeah,
And
that one hit the field pretty strong when it
yeah,
first got
back.
made. It
Yep.
came out of nowhere because I
Yep.
remember the meta. It was literally the Darrowing meta, like
Yep.
before even Darrowing got nerfed. And then I think I forget who it was who first went at it with it. It might have even been Ruben. It Ruben definitely used it
Hmm.
at that time, but somebody just came out of nowhere farming me with pirates. I was pretty upset about it. So yeah, that you're good, but also that deck came in hot for sure.
I mean, yeah, that was yeah. I wasn't streaming at all, and I think I took it to like I like also qualified for seasonals, which was like I was like, oh, I don't think I could do that. Top 700, that sounds crazy. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely.
after that, I felt after I hit masters and played in a seasonal, I was like, I mean, maybe I'm good enough to like stream playing this game. Like, maybe
Yeah.
somebody can learn something, and I'll have fun along the way. So,
I
uh,
remember your
that's it.
first like couple streams I dropped in, like yeah, you're very much more at that point where because now I feel like personally like more confident in like talking like I you know what I mean, like I know what I'm talking about, whatever.
Yeah.
You did a lot of the little like self-deprecating, like, oh I'm not even good. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
winning.
yeah.
I'm just beating people. Oh Targon's good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
that's not
I got
the
a big
Sqweeby I
raid
see
too,
now.
just like you. Like I got a fresh lobster raid on my second day of streaming, and I went from like 3 people watching me on my first stream to like yeah, like 400 or something on my second stream on ladder. So
Exactly.
that was super motivating. Like after that, I don't know. I give like I just like attribute a lot of me wanting to stream more to like that initial burst of
Same
success and
here.
like a hit and just being like, wow, wait, this is what it can feel like. There's so many
Yeah.
people talking. This is so cool. Like,
And it's crazy with this game too. I feel like it's with the community, it's like far more common. Like, all the bigger streamers are down to raid smaller streamers and stuff like that. And I've heard that story like a good amount. It's like super sick. It's super motivating, like you said. Like, I don't know if you know Fake Hero.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think I was literally like his third follower on Twitch,
Yep.
like when I first went into his stream. And then the next stream, he got raided by Grappler. And then he kind of got to get it going too. So it was like, we're all just starting off from literally like base level, no, you know what I mean? Nothing really. And then it's like one, we get the raid to like have the viewers and the exposure, and then it's like now we also got the fire to get good. And it's cool to see like how like because been keeping track with all the different Runeterra streamers and seeing like where they came in at and seeing where everyone's at. I feel like literally everybody
Has grown.
just kind of grown and
I
just made that
agree.
jump at
Yeah,
least.
and like reading articles and stuff about like how to grow on Twitch, how to get more followers and subs and all that, they always recommend, or at least like one of the tips is, if you can and you're good at a small game, like stream the small, like just work within your community of the game. Don't jump around too much. It's kind of hard to like grow as a variety streamer right off the bat. But if you find your
Yeah,
niche and you're good at that, especially like being a high level player in any game will bring you success like if you stick with it. But um yeah, if you're kind of we're in our card game niche and we have a passionate community and everybody's open to raiding. Like I've sent
super
raids to
sick in that
people who
way.
like they just started streaming and they were like, I've only streamed this game for 1 day, I got a raid.
Yeah,
Like that's awesome. So uh
like
I don't see that in other communities
yeah,
as much. I don't know if that's the case, but like a Call of Duty streamer or a League streamer, there's so many more you know what I mean? It's so the experience of
literally.
getting a big raid is probably, way less of a chance of happening.
Yeah, like in Call of Duty, that's like got to be almost impossible. It's like even if you're gonna hit a small streamer, one of the big streamers, like it's like
There's
roulette. There's no way.
2,000 people
Like
with 3
they're not.
views or less. Yeah.
Yeah, they got to scroll down for like 40 minutes to get
Yep.
to you. It's like
Yep.
it's literally impossible. So it's like I don't even blame them in those scenarios. It's
Mm-mm.
like to not, but it's like a tight knit community and like with streamers and everything. But also it's like it feels like it's like a small community, but also like so big at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like super tight knit, but there's so many people in it. It's like I don't know, super sick. Um, I definitely became more of a Riot fan after this. I played a little bit of TFT before this,
Oh,
but
cool.
nothing too much. And like Riot's got some sick stuff going on for sure.
I played League a lot in high school, but I was like I was like a silver player. But I played it for like
Yeah,
years, and I just like I was pretty casual, and I wasn't like hardcore trying to get better. But I also think if I played a million hours, I'd still be like silver, low gold. So I'm glad
yeah,
they have a card game.
yeah. I feel you, man. The the other thing too with League, I feel like League at the time was the first game where, because like everyone was playing League and it was like months of them playing League and they're like, you should play League. And I'm like ready, I'm like, but what's the point? Like this game's always died out, I feel like before then. So it's like it's just gonna die out and then it's gonna be like, what's the point of playing it? It's like the first game I've seen where it's like, oh no, it's just actually relevant for
League?
10
Oh
years.
yeah, League and
Yeah.
like World of Warcraft. And like I guess
Yeah.
Counter Strike as well. Like, but there you can count them on one hand the number of games that make it past like the 6, 7, 10 year mark. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a huge feat. But yeah,
Even
I mean,
less.
there's
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
we're
I think it's a little more common with like esports and stuff now. Like
hmm
there's more of a reason for someone to get tied into just one and streaming.
yeah.
But yeah, with that, I think solid introduction, get to know a little bit more about us, but let's just jump into the meta.
Okay,
How are you feeling
the hot
in
button issue.
general? General thoughts. Yeah, hot button issue.
Uh, I had a strategy that I've been using, which was to just not play ladder that much since the meta has been how it is for over 6 weeks or something. Definitely since the last seasonal.
Yeah.
There's only one new meta, like true tier 1 meta deck, Aurelia Azir, and then Thralls is doing things, but I would say it's tier 2, low tier 2.
I feel like it's honestly like Aurelia Zero tier 1 and a
Yeah,
lot of stuff
tier 2.
literally tier 2. It's
Yeah,
like
or
the lineup. It's
1.5.
like
Yeah.
normally people would like to jam some stuff into tier 1. I think it's literally a one deck tier 1 right now.
Yeah, so a lot of streamers have been like vocal and feeling the burnout and like voicing that, and now after a couple more weeks in, I can see why it does really feel like you're kind of tossing a dart blind at a board when you queue in with your deck, and that there's not as much skill expression as there has been in past metas in terms of
Yeah.
counter decks countering each other as a rock paper scissors triangle.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's something that's been a problem in the past as well. But like the similarity that I think something that if they could address would be really good is like, because like you talk about that rock paper scissors, it's like there's so many decks with just so many polarizing matchups. Like whatever their losing matchup is in this game, at least I feel like almost always their losing matchups, it's super polarizing. Like,
Mm,
you know what I mean? Like Thralls destroys TLC, and then like Aurelia Zier well, TLC again, and everything else. But it's like to the point where it's like a lot of the times the game, I feel like personally, I feel like it's won at the loading screen. As soon as you see that matchup, there's not a lot you could do. So it's like if they
yeah,
could kind of
there's
like
yep.
narrow that margin, like it's fine, obviously things being favored or whatever, but like not having it so swingy, because that's what makes it super RPS. Because it's like I could queue into a player like, sorry, imaginary player, but I'm 10 times better than. But if they're on the right deck, like I can't outplay them really. Like there's not a lot you can do, I feel like, in a lot of the matchups. So I feel like that's one of the things that makes it feel really bad to play in,
Yeah,
personally.
I would say what ties into that too is potentially that there isn't a ton of flexibility of game plans within regions, if that makes sense. Like
No, that does
Noxus
make sense.
is aggro, like it can push damage. Like there are some control tools with Flock and Swain and things like that, but Draven's in there. Yeah, he's a great champ, but they're they have a game plan, and they can only really stick to that game plan within the constraints of the cards that they have. The most flexible region is Targon, and
Absolutely.
that is
Yeah.
because of the healing. It allows them to stall to the late game, break through aggro, which is like a third of the possible decks. You have aggro, mid range, and then
Absolutely.
control. So they have those healing tools to be able to last into later turns, and they have card draw, and they have hush, and they have all of these tools to prevent other strategies from achieving what they want to, while also like, building up their own unique win conditions. But a lot of other regions, I don't think they have that same sort of flexibility in the terms of invoke cards and healing and ways to stall out other decks.
Yeah.
So that can be a problem, I think, if there was a way to introduce, more flexible mechanics and cards into a few of the regions. It might start to feel like there's more skill expression and chance to win into those polarized
I agree.
matchups.
But also, I feel like, with that being said, like, there's been metas where that's not the case. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so we know it can exist. It's just like, not at the moment. At the moment, I think it's kind of feels bad, man. So I definitely know where I'm on the side with this. What do you feel about the nerfs that were implemented to Azir Aurelia? Did it do anything? Did it do a lot? Um, for people that aren't aware, maybe a little bit more casual and haven't noticed, also, in a way, they almost received a buff to the deck as well, with Aurelia being able to make her Blade Surge right on level.
It's a buff.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
But
I
not
know that's a
overall.
buff,
Not
but like
overall.
overall,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
overall,
Got nerfed
yeah,
and buffed.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
think
But more buff or nerf?
I think it's a little more nerf. I think your people who say it's like a way more of a buff is probably a little bit of an over exaggeration, just because of how good the pre-nerf 4-mana double blade surge card was on curve with Marshall. And I think Voices, the new card to slot in if you want to on that 4 slot, is a bit weaker than Marshall was. But I think it only has lost a couple percentage, like 2 to 3 percentage points of strength, honestly. That Aurelia buff, it comes into play a lot in spots
It's
where
huge.
like, she just felt like you were mulliganing her like a lot of the time in most
Yeah,
matchups. You
literally.
just won Azir and Deus, and now a lot of the times you could be keeping her, and she comes in handy a lot more in the mirror as well. And I've gotten this from talking to players who've played the deck a lot more than I have, and they do believe like the curve has been hurt. But when Riot said in those patch notes that they don't want to nerf decks into oblivion, this deck is not going anywhere anytime soon in the current state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely got to see what the next patch has in store if we're trying to see it out of the meta.
Do you
But
think it's been buffed more, or it was
I
hit?
don't think it's been buffed more, but
Yeah.
it's almost like
Almost
a little
even.
bit
Yeah.
nerfed or negligible. It might
Yeah,
even be even because
yeah.
it's so huge in the situations where she levels right away.
Yep.
And like I'll be in a spot where like this was a spot where before I could, block some sand soldiers on some blades, block some stuff.
Yep.
And now she has that thing. And it's like if I put any of my units out there, they're dead now. And now like I can't block. I can't live. So it's like and that happens pretty often. You know what I mean? Like that situation comes up more often with that kind of deck than it would in general, just because like, it's all blade focused. She's always making blades. So it's going to be very often that the attack she levels up on is going to be a blade attack where, it's kind of important to get some key blocks to really just set up. Because a lot of times it's a deck I also feel where it's like you're one round away from winning. Like it's like a 1-round situation. It's like, all right, if I can survive this attack, I got him next turn. And to have that situation pop up, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. Like you said though, like the nerfs that were implemented too kind of balances it out.
Yeah.
But, they might have had like it might have actually just been a good enough nerf even if that doesn't happen, but it's like
it would have been interesting to see if it didn't come through. And it's so punishing as well. Like if you don't remove Azir or Aurelia, like the turn they come down, and then I got like triple blade surged, I think, on 6 mana, like those 2 mana units that summon for not removing, and it was yeah.
I had the like biggest high roll I've ever seen that deck have yesterday against me. It was literally either turn 4 or turn 3 or something like that. Now I had full board blasting me. I was just like, I've never even seen that. But I know obviously that, niche scenario. But yeah.
Because it's so dominant in the meta still, like we've talked about, like It's keeping TLC in check on ladder, which I think would be a serious problem if it wasn't in existence.
Yeah,
Well, I guess thralls are as well, right? But
that's what I was gonna say.
I'd like to see them both. Like, if they do decide to touch Aurelia Azir again, I'd like to see them bring the power level of both TLC and that deck down a smidge.
I think they need to, yeah, I agree, but I'm adding to that. I think they need to lower the whole triangle because right now the top three, it's like obviously there's one that's bigger than the other three, but
Yeah,
other two, it's like that TLC and Thresh Gnosis,
yeah. That
and
deck
it's like
could use
bringing
another
all
hit.
three of those down. Like there's so many decks that are like below there, and
Yep.
like bringing them down to that level, like that's how it's gonna get like diverse. You just say like the top decks, it's it's just power creep. Like it's like they're pushed to a range where the stuff that was big and relevant before it can't really get there. But it's like if you can just drop them down a little bit, there'd be a ton of room for a ton of different stuff to maybe pop in. And
Yeah.
also like with Azir Aurelia and Thresh Gnosis, and that's the reason why I think both of those need to hit up. They kind of made the game go too fast in a way
Very
where I feel
fast.
like, yeah, where just cut out mid range, just cut out a bunch of stuff where you can't afford to do it
My
at all.
poor
So it's like
Targon
you could
dragons,
just
dude.
yeah, you could just slow it down a little bit. Everything can exist, but it's crazy though because it's so fast that it's like you're talking about your poor Targon, which is like on the control end of the
Yeah.
spectrum, and I'm over here on the aggro end of the spectrum,
Too
and
fast.
it's like my poor aggro decks. It's like Thresh Gnosis like against like spiders or whatever. It's like it's too fast. You can't deal with it at all. It's like so both ways, and same with like Azir Aurelia. They just hit hard. Obviously, spiders that particular type of aggro has a good matchup into that, but a lot of aggros like
Yeah.
um just gets dropped down. So it's like crazy. It's like literally the full circle is affected by
Yeah.
it.
I don't think they would need to do much, honestly, to like for
Yeah,
where
that's
the
what I'm
decks
saying.
are at currently. I think you need to tweak the early game of Thresh Nasus a little bit, drop it down a little bit. I think you need to make Lysandra that she's seen to 8 cost summon. That would make it a lot harder to achieve that combo by turn 8. You have to actually put her on the board before turn 8 and keep her alive.
Absolutely.
And then I think for Aurelia Azir, they need to make the 0 mana switch card like 1 mana, and maybe you can only create 1 per turn. Because the Shurima
Yeah.
Shuffle is a combo finisher for 0 mana
Yeah.
when she's got 3 of them, and all of a sudden you're getting hit by a 12/12 1-drop sparring student, and you
Yeah, when you
it,
got
at
the
burst
answer
speed
too.
in combat,
Yeah.
and you can switch it with an elusive. That
It's
is
insane.
pretty unbeatable. But those small tweaks I think wouldn't kill the decks, and they would bring them in line and allow for kind of a more healthy, diverse metagame to rise up from under them. So let's hope we see that in 2.11. Maybe if we want to move into that, they're
Absolutely.
talking about
So
changing up the.
2.11.
Yep, go for it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know exactly what you were going to refer to.
They
With
just
the
hinted
changing-
that they're going to be changing sort of the
changing
way
a
they
lot.
handle
Yeah.
patches and their philosophy behind them maybe potentially as well.
Yeah, I think that's great to hear. So it's an interesting situation. One, it's good that it feels very good for like a company to respond to like the community, especially when it's just like you're just vocaling on different platforms like Twitter and Reddit and stuff like that. And to know that they're looking at those and kind of like taking the community's feedback is great to see for sure. And it's also just funny because like people will always refer to this like it's stuff they were doing. Like they were very aggressive on patches and they got a lot of I feel like positive praise for it. So just along the way it kind of like died down and like they kind of let a lot of problem decks linger for too long in my opinion. I
Yep.
feel like, you know, once you hit the 2 week mark of something just like being way overtuned, like it gets old quick, you know? So it's good to hear that they're going to be more aggressive on that and with as well as implementing buffs. I've always said I'm a big proponent of buffing cards. Don't need to go like full into it, but like, reading the article where he's like, well, if we buff cards, like they probably won't even get raise in play rate anyway. So it's like, dude, but like
There
at
were a
least let
lot of
me meme a little
examples
bit
too
better. Like
of cards getting what look like minor buffs and
there's
then
so
like
many,
coming
yeah.
into the meta. There were a lot of good comments on that thread. We'll probably just link that in the description of this
Yeah.
podcast.
And there's also like with that, it's like they're not giving the community an opportunity, yeah, to like kind of build and like push certain cards. It's like, for example, they buff Mind Meld because this is my like personal one. It's like they buff Mind Meld from 8 mana to 7 mana. Obviously, at the immediate time, didn't really see a difference, didn't really
Right.
see play. It's like, whatever, that card's pretty bad. But then once I saw those P and Z cards that got added, such as like the copy, ballistic bot, all of those, I was like, I see a synergy here
Stress testing.
to make this
Stress
card
testing.
work. Oh, that card didn't exist yet.
Oh,
When
oh, oh. Okay.
I'm talking
After.
about
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, because if people don't know, I kind of made the first version of TF Fizz that started running
That's
around,
right.
which
Yeah.
was I did Teemo Fizz, and you know, I just saw this card that like it's like everyone's like it's bad, whatever. I'm like, I don't think it's bad here. I can get a full board of elusives buffed super big by like, you know, a early turn in the game, turn 7, something like that.
Yep.
And especially in the meta, it, like worked really well. So it's like that nerf, I mean that buff that they made at the time, sure it was like irrelevant and didn't make the immediate increase in play rate happen or whatever. But then as you introduce more cards, these cards also get some stuff that synergizes it with it more, and it opens up doors to the future. So I'm glad that they're hearing our voices on that, and are going to try to make that happen a little bit more. Another example of that very quickly is like Vlad. Like people didn't really care about his buff, and obviously he got a little bit better once
Yeah.
he got packaged with Braum with ice shards and stuff like that.
A card getting a little bit better is okay. It's okay if it's not meta and it's a little bit better because people will
Yeah,
test it out in decks and people enjoy cards that aren't meta as well. So I don't see that as a waste of time or a loss.
exactly.
They've talked about the release schedule too being hindered by it being so big on mobile and the constraints of they have to have the patch notes 2 weeks ahead of time approved so that they can get them through the App Store and submitted through that pipeline, which is a whole separate
Yeah.
thing than PC. So it kind of is like reining in the whole system. So I think they probably aren't going to be increasing the frequency of patches, but if they are making those once a month, balance patches sizable and like material that they will affect the meta in a positive way through buffs, through bringing the power level and power creep more in line with other decks. I think that will be enough. It doesn't need to be every 2 weeks necessarily.
Yeah. The one thing with that though, it's like one kudos to them if they can like do that, but it's like difficult because with them having to go 2 weeks in advance, they have to like foresee like what it's gonna
Yeah,
be like. And
yeah,
that's I feel like a lot of the problems with like the Azir Aurelia buff that were coming in because it was like week one, it's like, oh, this deck is good, but it's not like insane, right? Like as
right.
far as
We're
perception.
figuring it
And
out.
then
Yeah,
and then they're like that's when they're making their statements that they're not gonna nerf at all. And then
yeah,
week two, they're like, okay, it is overtuned, let's nerf it, but they don't like it hasn't gotten to the point where it's like, okay, this is absolutely not okay.
yeah,
So they, they probably don't fix that Aurelia bug if they knew like it was gonna, be what it is. It's just so overtuned. So it's like they need to like look ahead and kind of like really go off the trends like right away. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
before it like boils over. So I'm hoping that they can do that and kind of just look into the future.
yeah, yeah. How are you feeling? And now that they've made that sort of announcement, like looking forward for the game, has it improved your confidence and like optimism for the future of content releases for the game? Or
Yeah, I definitely am hopeful with that approach. The other thing I like is so it should be going along with like a set of cards, right? Like it's the buff going into cards.
so yeah, 2.11 I think is going to be when they release the
I mean
new
patch, excuse me.
yeah,
Yeah.
2.11, which is the one they're hinting at is going to be the big one, is I think that's when the last set of Shurima comes out.
Yeah.
So
So
it'll be
I
alongside a bunch of new cards, which is cool.
yeah, I'm hopeful because I felt like that was a big problem before. They wouldn't do patches into new cards.
Yep.
And very so often it was like, the classic, like you look at the leaderboard, see who's rank one. whoever it is who got to Masters first, they're just using whatever the old top deck was
Definitely.
that saw no changes. So it's like I think that's a huge thing because card releases are hype and it's like super exciting. And it's like when you want to jump into new cards, if they're not at whatever that top power level is, you don't get to experiment. And it's like, man, like this is the whole point. And that was kind of a problem. One with just like, Malphite kind of bad,
Yep.
some other champ, Zillion's kind of bad, type of situation. That definitely is, something that played a big role into that, but it's like these cards come out, all we really got is Azir Aurelia
Yeah.
as what we were able to experiment with new cards and new decks outside of just jamming Merciless Hunter and everything under the sun with
Right.
Shurima. So it's like to have that coming in, I think that's like a unsung hero of what they're planning, what they're doing. So I am more hopeful. And also just to like give kudos again, like all the events they've been doing with Worlds, Seasonals, Europe Masters, all of that is fantastic and has been fantastic just outside of the game itself being a little unfun at times.
Yeah, I have touched on this in other discussions. I like the seasonals. I like the worlds. I wish we had something similar to Masters in America's Shard, but
That'd be
I'd
sick.
like to see moving forward, maybe post worlds after they kind of get a handle on things, like even more support for the competitive scene. Because prior to having seasonals and even during seasonals, like the tournament scene, which I participated a good bit in, is all community based and they're weekly, and the prize money is put up by streamers or organizations
Yeah.
outside of Riot. And if they were to, they're having Giant Slayer. They partnered with them to do casting and stuff for open rounds for the seasonals, which is awesome. But I'd like to see them sort of like sanction more like legitimate community events as well. Something like a fight night, something like OLS, even that is run super regularly, and toss a
Yeah.
couple $100 in the prize pool. Maybe like put your name on a Riot plaque for Runeterra or something cool, and just kind of like
Just even the promotional, if they just tweet it out. I mean, I know you'd be down to win a tournament where Riot tweets you out.
yeah, or like give you extra seasonal points, or they could. There's a whole number of things they could do. I just think that seasonals and worlds, while they're super necessary and awesome, and what we have, these community tournaments are a lot more consistent. And top players are proving themselves outside of ladder there every week, so it would be easy for them to kind of tap into these networks that are already established and recognized by top players.
Yeah.
But that's completely separate from like a casual player base that isn't watching on Twitch, or it's not catering to that at all. It's really catering to the hardcore competitive
I agree.
players. Um,
And like for me personally, like I'm super competitive person and it's like I would love to be grinding in these tournaments, stuff like
yeah,
that, but there's just not much of a reason to be
yeah,
at the time.
yeah.
So
If you
yeah.
look at the playtime, I mean, if there's 100 people who enter and the top prize is $100, and forget like the win percentage, but if you have to play like 9 to 10 rounds and get to finals, like you're looking at playing 9 or 10 hours and then potentially not
Yeah,
getting paid at all. So not everybody can be
exactly.
doing
Yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, if there was more kind of attention and sort of like added bonus put into those, I think you'd see a lot more interest in it.
Yeah, like you said, something that could potentially be cool is with stuff like worlds, if that is a thing in the future as well. Because people really, the community, from what I hear, is like not really loving that ladder is assigned to that and stuff like that. That ladder holds so much
Yeah,
significance. So to give like world points at local tournaments and stuff like that, and just have like a way outside of just grinding ladder. And I
yeah,
know as well. Like we're both streamers. Like I can't just be camping LP, you know what I mean? Like I could make an alt. I don't That's not really for me. I would love to just be able to have ladder be ladder and, you know, have a different way of just delving into competitive through, like points being given through tournaments, maybe invitational slash like qualifier type tournaments would be cool to delve into their like bigger ventures or bigger tournaments.
yeah,
So I think there's a lot of different ways that the stuff could be done, but I think they've made progress, and they are pretty like dynamic with changing it. Like this Worlds is the first Worlds.
Yeah.
Seasonals, like people had the problem with the one and done, so they adjusted and
That
then made it
was
so
such an amazing
huge.
change. I can't
So
emphasize
much,
that enough.
yeah.
You went from
Mm-hmm.
seeing no known, not really any known players in terms of streamers or like top tournament placers, which is fine. Like there are other good players who aren't doing those things, but then when you institute a X1 to potentially X2 rule, then like you see all of a sudden you see all of these consistent performing top players making top cut, like at least half of them. And so that's like an indicator that it was a positive change. And I think we only heard like positive feedback on Twitter and Reddit and stuff about that change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was a little bit of a hater before then, and even I dropped a tweet saying, "Yo, this was fun. This was sick. Like, this is way better in that regard." So it's like they will do stuff where it's like the community might not be super hype on it before, but again, if we're vocal and things like that, I believe, and also I do feel like when the community also suggests different specific changes, like they see that too. Like
Yeah.
I know they see that, so it's like if you have a good idea and you send it to them, I don't think they're like too big a ego to like consider. With that being said, some of you guys on Twitter be saying some shit, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we could get into it. Yeah, I think ladder is kind of I would say it might be the hardest way to qualify for Worlds, and me personally, like, I work full-time outside of streaming. I just will never have enough time to dedicate to ladder to get 2 top 10s that are necessary to qualify via points. So I kind of just focus on it for content, and then maybe if I can
exactly.
get the placement for X2, like winning a seasonal or top fouring, that's the free ticket to get. Like that is I think that's literally the easiest way to get to Worlds, aside from like performing well in all 3 seasonals for points, which I'm like currently qualified for through points, but it's only because they're counting this first one. But the fact that ladder it plays such a heavy role in terms of like it also affects standing for you going into seasonals if you can get X2. And then like also who you play potentially in your first round, it kind of bleeds over into all the other ways to qualify for Worlds in a problematic way, because it is just best of 1, and that's not what our tournament format is with 3 decks ban 1. So it's the skill necessary on ladder and the strategy there doesn't translate 1-to-1 with tournament strategy and building a lineup and all these other thinking outside of the box, all these other skills that you can really demonstrate in a tournament setting. So I think that's something a lot of competitive players have talked about, needing to see somewhat of a change there, maybe a best of 3. Ladder instated, I'm not sure exactly what the answer is, but there is too much emphasis currently placed on ladder, and because of that, you can get flamed by people if you're, if it seems you're getting an advantage. You wanna cover this, Faint?
Yeah. So for anybody not on the up and up on the situation that Sqweeby is alluding to, so a little bit of Twitter drama that he was involved in recently.
My first card Twitter drama. I'm so honored.
Yeah, man. I'm still waiting for mine.
Yeah. Oh, so it'll be fun. Don't worry.
With the importance of ladder in all of these different situations, it makes sense. Like I get where they're coming from with what they're saying, but I definitely don't agree. So Sqweeby, and along with some other players, well, I believe you're the one that's...
I'm the one who's getting... Like, no other player is really taken the same approach I have to this type of content, I would say. Yeah,
so Sqweeby, what he generally does is, like, Darkodius is a perfect example. He's a master of Azir Aurelia. So
he hit
Sqweeby
rank 1
will
with
get them on,
Yep.
have them coach him through the deck, kind of, get that perspective from the player that plays the deck the most, which is smart to do, and I think great to learn in general. But because it's on ranked, which is where you're going to get like the best practice, but not necessarily, but you know what I mean. Like you just get that competitive aspect in it. That's the place to go. So you go there, you're getting coached, and you're there to learn. But because the importance of ladder in all of these different situations, technically it's an unfair advantage to get more points and potentially qualify higher in these different events. So it's a situation where it's like I feel like for ladder we should be able to kind of just do what we want. Like as content creators especially, it's like when we want to do specific things for content, not being able to do those because of these arbitrary things such as like ladder worlds or whatever, it's pretty annoying. But Sqweeby, as you being the person in this situation, how you feeling about one, the actual point that was brought up to your attention, and
Yeah.
just being involved in some Twitter hype drama as well?
Uh, I can. It's like I can kind of like I feel both sides of it. I can see what the player is saying, that it is an unfair advantage, and it's also not. Not every player can have friends who are top of masters with these decks and then bring them on to coach them. So that's like a bit of a benefit. But at the same time, coaching is a thing that's available in like all competitive games and usually does take place on ladder. And all of these players offer coaching. Part of me bringing them on is to even like potentially promote their coaching or just share that they do coaching. And it's to, yeah, I'm like putting myself in the seat of a player. Often I'm like working alongside them as well. Like it's not they're playing every single move for me. It's like they're kind of giving me options. We're talking back and forth. Sometimes I take my own lines that are better or worse. But it's not an exact one-to-one of, pressing every button for me. I also like personally, like I don't take it that seriously. Like I said, I'm not going to qualify, like guaranteed I'm not going to qualify via ladder points. I'm not going to try to do that. Like I think I'll try to break my current record of rank 11 on ladder. But I don't plan on like camping super high LP. I don't think that's achievable with like the time constraints I have and stuff like that. So I'm mainly just doing it for fun, for my chat. I don't take it too seriously. I pay attention to chat a lot. I'm not too hardcore about it. I think that comes through in the content, and I've always kind of played games together with friends. Like even when I was playing Arena, I would play with friends. So I would be burning out on the content a lot faster. I wouldn't be streaming. I wouldn't be playing as much if I wasn't doing it with friends for ladder. And it isn't against the rules. That's why I'd like to get Riot their input on it. It's not illegal in League of Legends to have people coach you on ladder. I haven't read any rules about it on Runeterra that say it is. It is in tournaments. It's explicitly said you can't, team call, have other players helping you in any way. And I haven't, and I've done well in tournaments. So I think I've demonstrated my potential as a player on my own. But in terms of doing it for my stream, it's mainly for fun and educational purposes. I don't.
With that being said, so that thing that I think needs to be like made of a distinction is like the difference between coaching and like smurfing. It's not like you're like, it's like you said, it's like collaborative. It's like if you were to give them your account and just like have them grind matches on your account, obviously that's like not okay if they're just
that is illegal
taking over
according to the rules.
Yeah, if they're just like smurfing on your account or whatever. But to learn from a player and get better, like even if it's through the ladder system, that's good. And like you said, you have accomplishments of your own in tournament settings. And I don't know directly, but I'm sure, getting coached and learning through these other people, like that doesn't hurt in those situations. So it just makes you better when, push comes to shove and you got to run it yourself. It's not a bad thing. So I think kind of like gatekeeping that in a way and just being like, oh, you can't be doing this because I am not getting coaching is not fair. And also to make it seem like the amount of games you're getting coaching, like, you'll have streams on your own. You got plenty of chances to tank that LP.
Oh, I do a lot. I mean, I do a lot of streams
exactly.
without guests. I play a lot off stream as well.
Exactly.
But there was a point made that it is a bit different in a card game where it's not based on APM or reaction time or things in shooters like League of Legends, key mechanics and stuff like that. You really, if you wanted to, getting coached, like the player can play the cards for you and like Smurf with you clicking the buttons, but like the type of content I do, I'm often arguing with them, like often questioning the lines, trying to understand. It is a learning experience. I'm giving my own input and like playing for myself a lot of the time as well, or they're just hanging out in the call. So
Yeah.
It's not an exact one-to-one, but I do understand that it is a bit different in a card game. You can get like more of a benefit through that, which is like also why I think you can learn, anyone can learn a lot through coaching. None of us are going to be the number one on any deck, and that is something I try to make an effort on, is bringing in players who specialize on different decks and kind of showcasing that on stream. And like everybody's getting coached along with me in a sense in chat. They're seeing the same situations. And it can be a liken too as well, like even though the IQ is maybe collectively lower, is like anytime you get a suggested play from chat that you see and take into consideration, like that can be a form of coaching as well. So it kind of just is inevitable within card games in general. Like we all want to play as much as we can and see the lines that are possible. But mainly it's just been pretty funny to me. It's like kind of wild that like that someone got so mad at me over playing with friends online. Like there's no money tied to like how well you do on ladder. You then have to do well, translate that into like tournaments, unless you're qualing via ladder. Like, and there's also currently a sniper, who's number 2 on ladder.
Yeah. So if there's a problem with that, we definitely got to fix the situation where they're not getting coached, they're not smurfing, they're just looking at their opponent's cards 100% of their games. Okay, so that we got to put the list of priorities a little bit in order.
Yeah, but if I would like Riot to chime in on it if there is a problem with that, and then like I will go from there accordingly. But I think
there's definitely like nothing wrong with like the publisher, the company, to just not put their foot down, but just establish that so it's not in question.
Yeah. Until then, I like the way I run my stream. I like the way I play with friends on stream sometimes, and that's what I plan to continue doing.
Absolutely.
If it makes a few people on Twitter mad, that's okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Absolutely. So with that being said, I think this is a pretty good point to leave it off. I think we kind of covered a lot of the stuff that's been happening right now, and some of the personal vendettas against you as well.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have any more drama for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a pretty solid start. Again, this is me and Sqweeby are gonna try to do this. We don't have an exact schedule or anything. It's gonna be kind of just like off the cuff whenever we can both link up. But this is something we're gonna try to do a little bit regularly. So hopefully you guys enjoy the content, and we look forward to linking up again in the future. So Sqweeby, if you have anything to say before we sign off.
We're going to be the best Runeterra podcast. Just give us a couple months. We're going to work our way up the ladder. Literally, we're probably going to get coached from some other top podcasts. But
where's Saucy at?
Get used to seeing our faces. Thanks so much for coming through, guys. And we'll see you on Twitch. We'll see you on the streams. We'll see you all around. Peace out.
Peace.